A regular job can't afford a regular life anymore. I think that must be some kind of line in terms of society. That point where the regular median person earning a median wage can't live normal life like their parents did. House? Forget it. Kids? Nope. Regular holidays? Unlikely. A dog? Only if you're upper median. I'm currently pretty well off, with a decent salary, and I'm sitting there hesitating to start life and put down money to buy a house, have kids, etc. I can't imagine what it's like for the true median. So what happens? Is it a pendulum that will swing back, after say a big world war, where a bunch of people die and the survivors get their houses and stuff? Or is it one of those elevators to nowhere, where things just keep getting more and more expensive until we get into some kind of dystopia? Your parents had a house, you have a car, your kids will have a motorbike, and their kids will have decent shoes. I think this discontent is the fact that a generation of Australians are waking up to the fact they aren't middle class, they are poor. Yeah, it's already a problem, especially in Melbourne and Sydney. Will it change? I doubt it. I love this country. But it's at the stage now where you either commit working till 70 to pay the mortgage required for a home, or I earn my money and emigrate overseas for an easier life at 50-ish. I'm not saying it's better overseas, but the allure of being able to retire much earlier and have a good life is more appealing. Inflation is generally everywhere. What saddens me is that we have short lives and we only get to live once too, and yet we spend more of our time and lives working than actually living. The way our society is built only caters to those above the working class. My parents sure as hell didn't go on regular holidays. As a kid I never traveled. To visit my grandparents we would drive 3 days from Melbourne to Brisbane and back, to save the airfare. My parents lived a way more simple life than I do. None of the luxuries that I consider to be standard parts of daily life. Spend some of your savings and visit some other countries. You'll quickly realize how good you have it compared to large parts of the rest of the world. Being a solo mum and carer of 2 kids, homeschooling one not by choice but because there are no suitable school options, living regionally. We survive on only a carer's pension. It's tough. Nothing about our life is regular. And I've no idea how my kids will cope in years to come. People start living in their cars while earning $50 $60K. We're already at that point. It will just start to become more common. There doesn't seem to be a way out of it. I think the bar has shifted as well. My folks had 1 car. No mobiles. No streaming services. No overseas holidays. Eating out was very irregular. Takeout was not common. Houses were 3BR with a single bathroom, lounge and rumpus. Fancy was a second toilet. The expectation of standard of living has risen as well. Username checks out. But yeah, world is becoming very dystopian. Your regular may not be someone else's regular. Everyone these days thinking a yearly holiday to Bali, a dog, 5x weekend holidays a year, a BMW, a house, and restaurant trips every weekend is regular. It's not. Regular holidays. What's that? Change doesn't come without struggle. Eventually, with enough erosion on standard of living, we will see proper backlash and a groundswell of people taking action against the greedy and governments that enable them. Greedflation. Just get into huge piles of debt, bro, then you can have all the garbage that everyone else has that you don't need. Mum and Dad grew up in the 40s and 50s. Dad had been a soldier but was now a TPI. Totally and permanently incapacitated. Mum worked only sometimes for a year or 2 at a time as a secretary or saleswoman or whatever. They had 4 kids. At one stage we had 2 houses, 2 cars and a caravan. Electricity was $17 a year. A year. Yes, that's right, elec was once so cheap in Australia that you got yearly bills. They bought their first house for $17K. Tell me you grew up rich without telling me you grew up rich. Strange, Pretty much all my friends, like me, are just regular people with regular jobs, 2-3 kids, go on holidays, most have dogs and own houses, in the millennial generation. The hurt feelings over people with their finances in order in a finance sub is pretty ridiculous. What entitled shit is this? Regular holidays, a dog? Obviously you grew up rich and entitled. Normal life for your parents included not dining out, not traveling, and working 2 jobs. I'm currently pretty well off, with a decent salary, and I'm sitting there hesitating to start life and put down money to buy a house, have kids, etc. I can't imagine what it's like for the true median. So just start life in your own way at some points. Your parents at some points also worked hard for it supposedly, and your children will also have to work to achieve better things in life. Whether us or them will make it or not is a whole another story. It depends on what you define to be normal. If your goal is to save up to buy a house first, then you must forego other luxuries like overseas holidays, expensive cars, designer clothes, even that PlayStation 5. You have to sacrifice some things in order to achieve that main goal. Once you get your own house, and you have paid off a good chunk of the mortgage, then you can think about going on an expensive holiday or treat yourself to a nice car. But ask yourself first, what is your goal? Worst part is people are working jobs, e.g. cleaner, fast food worker, as unworthy of home ownership. Define normal life, Plaza. Already in a dystopia, son. Welcome to late-stage capitalism. The problem is that most average people have watched too much television and spent too much time on social media. They want to do an average job but also live in a freestanding house in an upper-class area, drive a late model car or 2, have multiple holidays overseas of course per year, eat out every week and buy new clothes every month. People just have a very inflated perception of what a normal life should look like. This is the crux of the Great Resignation emo. In terms of what happens, we don't know. History tells us the revolutions and wars are good catalysts for new world orders. Economy would need a catastrophic failure in order to help those at the bottom of the economic pile, but a catastrophe would affect them the most and leave them least well placed to take advantage, like interest rate rise. So the answer is still, we don't know. I can't imagine what it's like for the true median. True median full-time earner on 82k? True median all earners on 62k? Doesn't sound that bad to me. This is built into our economic system because we treat housing as a commodity. We need to make some fundamental changes or it will just keep getting worse. Pretty much hit the nail on the coffin there. There are lots of talks of the prediction of you are either upper class or lower class. The middle class will become yet a distant memory. Inherited wealth I think you are talking about. You may not be able to do everything you want to in life, but doesn't mean that you should be afraid to live it. Otherwise, all your hard work, what is it all for? People's expectations have been warped by social media and media propaganda. Everyone expects a 3-bedroom house, 150k income and regular holidays every 6 months right out of uni after working their first job, when that has never been the reality for any Australians. Yes, it can. I have an apartment and make very little compared to others on Norse Finance. I hate to break the bad news, but living standards can and will fall a long way yet. You aren't entitled to this affordable luxury lifestyle that everyone has become accustomed to. Have a look at other parts of the world. Families share houses, working a side job is the norm, etc. If you can't make it while working FT in Australia, which has some of the highest wages in the world, you're the issue, not the system. Back then nobody had Instagram show them that their neighbors had avo on toast every day of the week, that their friend from primary school is having the best tropical holiday in the Maldives, and that their best friend's sister is buying a mansion at a leafy suburb by the beach. Careful coming in here saying how things really are. The people with the mum and dad safety net who signed off on their first mortgage years ago will get defensive.